Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Sadly, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started together for Sharon.com in her memory and to advocate today for all those still battling PD and their families because no one is ever alone in this fight for a cure. Today's guest is someone I've grown close with, pretty new, but someone who inspires me every day. Wanted to welcome you, Herb, to the show, and just a real honor to finally get the opportunity to advocate together.
Well, same here. I know, some of the things you're experiencing, what I'm experiencing are some of they parallel. And so I think it's always great to talk with people that see it from two different directions. And I really enjoy this opportunity. And I enjoy your podcast as well as the information. I've got your book over here somewhere. So I have looked through that and enjoyed
Mm.
all the experiences that you had and what maybe you could may have done better and what you may not have expected to happen. So I think I'm kind of in that same boat, and so I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about that.
And we spoke a few shows ago with another guest and how Parkinson's obviously is some days very frustrating, horrible, but then it also brings together people like us, which to me it means the world. So although obviously I lost my best friend mother, I met so many inspiring people like yourself that really is the reason I still do this and won't stop till there's a cure at everybody's doorsteps around the world. Maybe you could start us off today by just telling the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I guess I'm kind of a nerd in a sense. I grew up in technology, and first job out of college was at the CIA in Langley. So that was an experience in itself because it's the late '60s when the Vietnam and everything was coming together, and so you kind of understand a lot of you get out there and around a lot of people. But after that, I worked for a couple of oil companies. That's people that had computers or main mainstream or mainframe. And then eventually I ended up back to my home area. We had a daughter that's born with oral facial digital syndrome. Some people by looks will think she's Down syndrome, but she's got very good intellect. And it kind of helped me in management of people in a sense that there are a lot of creative people out there that have a lot of things different. So that helped me. But as we progressed here and getting to the story of the Parkinson's, I was having some family difficulties of just getting along. And some people said, you know, uh, he's kind of delusional. But, I didn't have tremors. And sometimes when people don't have tremors, they kind of misdiagnose what you do have. And so I went to some professionals in a nearby city in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and they kind of misdiagnosed it because they were led to a different thinking about what my delusions might be about. So it was about 4 years later before it was confirmed as Parkinson's, and it was after I'd had major back surgery. So that's an important thing is, you have to pursue these things. And what I found at that time was there were a lot of things you could do, but a lot of the things I did was things I found out about and got involved with. Being a technologist, I would try to look at everything from a spinal cord stimulator because I had neuropathy and a lot of other issues to deal with. So when you got into that, but I was looking and thinking about everything. And so I think sometimes what the message is from my standpoint is, you really have to pursue a lot of things because even the doctors sometimes they will throw out ideas, but you have to follow up and do those in order to be successful and maintain maybe your cognitive skills or your speech. And we were visiting earlier, I just got off a 30-minute session with my speaking with intent, which coaches me on how to speak because I've done some podcasts with some people that have kind of put themselves in a corner and are very intelligent people, but they don't communicate very well and they've about lost their voice. So I see a lot of things from my viewpoint that I think it's from the 2016, I guess, final diagnosis that have kept me going at a better rate. And I have captured a lot of that on my podcast, Finding Your Happy Place, because I want to talk to a variety of people, and I always use the method of conversation so that we don't get into a set interview, and that's, I think it's the purpose I have, and it also gives me a ability to communicate that to people. It's not about something that's rehearsed or something that you practice on, but something you're willing to take, changes. And being a software developer, that was something I always had to do anyway. So that's kind of the way it all came about.
Thank you. I also want to dedicate and think about this show for your daughter. So we're sending love and support to and really important because I think the people who you surround or surround you are just as important because you wouldn't be able to do your advocacy if it wasn't for their love and support. So we send
Well,
our
I think that what I've done is when she's comfortable with it, we went out to Phoenix, Arizona a year or so ago, and we wanted to get out and do the driverless cars, things that AI or other things might enter into her life at some point. So not to be afraid of those things, and it could be for now Uber or Lyft or something, but there's always something coming down the road, either for myself or people I'm associated with. So that's the important thing of when you get into these situations, and it helps you to kind of feed off each other and do that. And my wife has been diagnosed with cancer in the last couple of years, and so she's been helpful, but she's tried to stay in the background. And that's I appreciate the privacy of anybody and everybody, and I deal with that with family and everybody else. But you develop a lot of new friends and camaraderie through programs like the Rocksteady Boxing or some other programs that we have here at UAMS, the medical college here, where we do some art, we do some music, and we do some things with uh, culinary, the cooking of where we're giving recipes, and we cook things, and we're there with other people with Parkinson. So I think it's important to stay active, but also be around people that are supportive. Sometimes you can be around people, and some of these are old friends that they want to remember you as you were, and if you take a different personality on, and one of the odd things about mine, and I've talked about this to my neurologist, is that I've been more active and more of an extrovert than I was before, because as a lot of times as somebody that's into computers, you're more introvert, and so that's a different personality for me. And some people like that, and some people don't. So that's one of the things I've dealt with. I just had my daughter picking up my dog this year, so that's the way podcasts are, as you know.
everyone's
So
welcome. We're animal friendly. We love
yeah,
dogs. I
yeah.
want to say
Sometimes you'll hear them barking in the background or
yep.
whatever. It's a funny part of the life of doing these. I like to go out. I went out to the Arkansas Academy or Museum of Fine Arts, and it was just a perfect setting and everything. But when I could get out with an executive director or go somewhere, you always find stories about Parkinson's, and her mother has Parkinson's up in Cleveland, and so I didn't know that till we started doing the podcast, and I thought, those are the real stories that you find out about, that people are willing to do something with you, and then you see how they may have a close relationship that we can build the podcast around. It's totally different than I went into the podcast thinking, well, we'll talk about the museum and maybe the art there, but then we shifted over to her mother, and we found out a lot of things that we had a lot of similar stories on. So that's kind of where I come from when I do something like this, or do something that is that I don't shy away from something new and change, because that's been my life in technology. You have to adjust for something and try something new, or at least look at things. So that's one directions I'm coming from on what I do and what I try to help people with is the worst thing you can do is to not be active or be put in a position where you don't stay active in thinking out things or doing things or going and doing. And that's where I think people fall off so much faster because I've been able to record a lot of things as to how I'm doing now and how I was doing. And so I can relate that to people and I can give them some transparency on those things so that when they run across this and they see these things, what do they need to do? And, and the tendency sometimes is to not do anything, and you really need to do something. So, and you can tell a lot about a person by how they communicate and how they are handling certain things. And some people, if they have an issue, they don't want to go talk to a doctor, and that may be the worst thing could
Yeah.
happen.
I think all the points you made are very important and we're bringing awareness. You might recognize this gentleman. I wanted to share for a moment and thank you again for sharing a lot more in depth. These shows are great, but we never have the time that I really want to read more. So everyone, if you go to togetherbysharon.com, click interviews, you can see a lot more in depth with Herb about his background, a lot of his advocacy, and also the most important is how to join and support his podcast. And we'll get to that in a moment, but very important to help also share all the hard work he's doing out there because it's also going to support you. Wanted to now touch a little bit on the show podcast and then also have a few more questions that are kind of fun and exciting. And I'm excited to hear your response, but maybe you could tell us the name of the show and how everyone can join you.
Well, finding your happy place came about when I was traveling in South America and was in Costa Rica with my friend Sid Sri from Arizona, and we were in the back roads of Costa Rica, and we came across this village, and there was kids out there playing, and he posed a question whether they're as happy as the people here in the states, and I gave it some thought, and I said, yeah, I think they are, and I really kind of related that to my daughter who had a kidney transplant, knees replaced, and how happy she was even in her circumstances because she had accepted that and she had become friends with more people probably than I do. If you go to a Walmart or some other places, they recognize her before they will me. So it came about from that, and then it kind of led into some stories of people I had met in Rocksteady Boxing who had really big careers, and they had and later in their life they found they had Parkinson's and how they were handling it. And some of it was tremors, and some of it was uh, much like mine. It could be anxiety or depression. So I wanted to get to stories that were about people handling depression, anxiety, and delusion. And I wanted to be educational, but I wanted to be entertaining. And so I've had some really good sports stars or radio and TV stars on the local front come on and help, and they have varying uh, reasons and varying backgrounds, and they're always very good. I did have one person with Parkinson's that was a track star. He was from Ireland, and he was a just all American at University of Arkansas, and he did go to the Olympics. And I found in his case, I'd read his book, but it was all about getting back to his story, and his parents never did say they loved him or anything until right up to the point where they were about to die. And so he was kind of it was a really good story to get out there that these people that have been CEOs and COOs, and they've had situations where they open up on things in their life that they probably never would have before. And he talks about the fact that he has had difficulty because when he goes out with people that they make the focus of the meeting about his speech or voice, so they always they're in a situation where you didn't get to talk or say something because that's not what they're worried about him and his speech. So It's just been a wide range of things that I've done on finding your happy place, and that's why when I've got an upcoming event, and this is on artificial intelligence with some people from Argentina that I met 30 years ago, and they're really good friends, and they're coming into Little Rock, and we're doing a whole session on that, and then we're having an Argentina wine tasting, and I've been the one that's kind of been facilitator of it. I've gotten some good help from other people that are in the Arkansas Academy of Computing. That's some of the pioneers in computing, and they've been helpful to me. But this is an exercise when you get 81-year old. Some people can't think you could pull something like this off, but it's on March 4th here in Little Rock, and I'm looking for it to be a big success just because of deep seek and all the other things that are coming from so many different unusual places, and these people have been dealing with artificial intelligence for I've been around them, so I know that they've done a lot in the last 10 years, but they did a lot of virtual reality and near virtual reality and Internet of Things. So it's kind of nice to be on a technical level, or on that depth, I guess, at this stage, whereas some people would just barely, be communicating and not looking for interest like that. And that's one thing I think that kind of keeps me going is to come up with these ideas and see if I can make them happen. And this is probably one of the more challenging, just because of the nature of the event, but also attracting people to come to it. So that's going to be my next focus on my next podcast is kind of introducing these people that I've known for years to people that will be the investors and other people that's doing tech work with artificial intelligence. So I think that's going to be a fun event, and that's going to be over the next month. So as far as our timing, I don't know when this podcast will be seen, but I'll be talking about it anyway. So
Thanks. And if you need us in any way to help support and share that, I'd love to do that.
yeah, thanks.
But shift now to the last part of our show, but I always say the most fun, but it's all fun to me. But
Okay.
can you list three words that describe who you are?
Well, I think that I'm persistent, and I'm a person that creative, and I think that uh, the fact that I never give up. There's a little more than three words, but it's kind of the meaning of the three are the important things that kind of summarize me, and always looking for something that can be helpful to me, and maybe I think some of the older people may be the guinea pigs for people in the future, and we got the national plan to end Parkinson's that we may not be hearing as much about as we should, but that's come into play now as we got into 2025. So
Yeah, a lot of the topics you mentioned, including the back, we could have a whole show about. So maybe
yeah,
I've had 4 back surgeries and I'm actually contemplating the stimulator and I want to know what your thoughts are, but we'll save that for after the show.
yeah, we could have that offline or whatever, but
But
I've pretty well done it all. I've got a pacemaker too, so
oh,
I'm kind of I've
I
got.
think it's amazing because your strength helps inspire so many, and hopefully through our show today, we'll actually inspire many more. What are some of the ways you have been able to combat the disease?
Well, I think what I alluded to earlier was being active in the camaraderie with people that have experienced some of the things I've experienced is really important. Important. They're always uplifting, and you can go to the cooking, which I don't know a whole lot about, or culinary thing where you put something together. It's a fun time, and you get a lot of help from the people that's running that show. But uh, in the summer, I'm about 50 yards from a swimming pool. I can go out there and walk at a normal pace. So there's things that can be done, I know, because if I'm not walking in swimming pool, it's hard to do. And then the Rock Steady Boxing is a good program in the sense that you're active and you're not hitting other people, but you're hitting the bags, and you do a lot of things to coordinate. And from there, you can go to an art class and sit there and do some weird art, I guess, and enjoy that. Or the music is typically trying to put things on it and try to be in rhythm. So there's a lot of fun things that's being done. And I go to some of the more educational things too, but I think the fun things and the camaraderie is something you got to pick up on, to really uh, create, the hope of doing better, or at least staying the same, is to go out and be active.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that everyone needs to do, and one that my mother struggled with. And a lot of the things you mentioned about your life actually kind of mirror hers. And if you had the opportunity to go in a time machine, go back and speak to a younger, even though you look like you're 25 now, so you're young.
Yeah,
So if
81.
you could,
I'll be 81
that's,
February 20th.
I feel like I'm 98. So
Yeah.
you could speak to a younger her for decades ago, what would you tell him about, the world of advocacy or just life?
Well, I think that what I found is, and some of these things are things that you think about, and it's a choice of family, and I always went that direction. But and as an entrepreneur, sometimes you have points in your life that you have opportunities to follow that dream, and that may be moving somewhere, and most of those things can be handled, but you have to be active and think about what is the big picture. Sometimes people get lost in that, and I know that I've been told by a consultant at times I was one step away from making it really big, and some of that was just the location I was, as far as financing and other things that kind of come into the picture. I realize that, and sometimes you don't want to make that move to be out in Silicon Valley or somewhere. You want to stay where you are, and you may make a sacrifice. And I think the family part has got to be the most important, and but you still got to think about the big picture and how you might do things differently. That would be one you'd have to think about again. Although, from my standpoint, I think it was the best decision for my daughter, and I have a son that has done very well. He's a Duke law graduate, and he's a C. I guess he is a chief financial officer for a major company. So that's one of the reasons we live in Little Rock. It's close to him. We lived in a small rural community in Harrison, north of here, and so some things happen just because of conditions that happen in family. But I don't think you can go wrong by making putting the family first.
And the next one you'll love. If you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it, and what actor would play your role? I'm
I think
seeing,
all
I
the
see a little
actors.
Clint Eastwood in you.
Yeah, no, I think the funny thing is probably a lot of those actors are probably dead by now. But
Yeah,
yeah, I really like there's a sarcasm, and there's an edge to what I do, and so you know I don't know that Finding Your Happy Place would not be a good title, but it
true.
would have an edge to it, and a lot more than just being. It's not going to be something that's, I can go to places and do things, and have, it's a something you might see in some of the funny actors that's out there, and some of those, would be just the fact that I try to use a little sarcasm and other things to what I say and do and who I talk to. So it would be, something on that level. And Bob Newhart was one person that they kind of compared me to when I went out to CIA. It was kind of funny, and that kind of stuck with me. Is it's going to have to be somebody on that level that kind of talks about things and does it in a little bit different way. And you see a little bit of that. The guy that has the soccer team, or it's on. I guess I don't know, maybe on Apple, but I can't think of his name right off. I guess that's part of the Parkinson's, but that guy was pretty. He would be pretty funny, uh, and somebody on that level is a Jerry Seinfeld, or even some of those type people are kind of more in a category that I enjoy. So that's the thing I think it would be, that kind of category.
I'll be first in line to get my popcorn and get a chair.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really appreciate
yeah. It's hard to believe somebody in the Ozarks is CIA and then traveled all over the world and was on TV in China and just did things, all kinds of weird stuff around the world. We caught piranha on the Amazon and just just did things that you might not think that would fit in. And of course, I never did, even though I was just CIA a short time. Everybody thinks that all the work I did internationally had to be related to that. And it wasn't. I would have been happy to have some money to cover a lot of my expenses. But eventually, a major company saw that I was competing in a deal in Taiwan and actually got the deal. And so they came to me and we made a deal. And as I said, that was the decision of, what do you do at that point? When you're in technology, you think, well, it's worth a lot right now, but maybe tomorrow it might not be. So kind of hard decisions, but there's a lot of stories that you met, or I met a lot of billionaires, multi-billionaires, and there's one over in Saipan that has got an interesting story in it. So there are a lot of people you meet, particularly when you do international, because you generally meet the top or the main people in those companies. So that's why I think it's a story I'm trying to kind of connect to, and even in my podcast. I'm not making it focus, but it is part of the story, and it kind of confirms things that people say, well, he's getting delusional. It didn't really happen or not. And so I have actual people and news clippings and things that kind of support that. So that's kind of what's been fun about it, and that's what part of the story is kind of connecting that with just the regular normal people and how you did that, and living in the Ozarks is kind of something that doesn't happen very often.
Well, they have that TV show, The Ozarks, and we loved it, but that's a different story.
Yeah, I know that one.
Oh, I do want to thank you not just for your time today, but your friendship over the last year and in the future, because I think as long as individuals like you are inspiring so many in the world, I'll be fighting right by your side till there's a cure. I wanted to also hope and really tell everyone listening how important it is to help follow and support Herb and his show and all he does on social media. We're going to share the show link and all of his Facebook and other and LinkedIn and all with you. So you just click on it to subscribe. But as we conclude today, I wanted to know, Herb, if you could tell us, and I don't say the final question because I feel this has to continue. This conversation cannot end when the lights, cameras, and paparazzi leave today. It has to keep going because until we have a cure at everyone's doorsteps, we still have work to do. But if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
Well, I think it's still a good reason to do your best. Look for solutions and don't shy away from those, because you may not think they're worthwhile. But I found that everyone, whether their success or not, give you hope. And so the main thing is being around people who share your hope, and they're uplifting, and try to be a person that you know builds confidence and hope that they will do what they can do to be out there with other people and other things, and they're an inspiration. It's just like what you're doing and other people are doing. Anybody that's making the effort to be involved, uh, they're an inspiration, because a lot of people kind of say, well, he's not what he used to be. I don't know that I want to be around or have much time with him. Well, rethink that, because I think you need to be real active with these people and pay attention. I have fun. There's people I strongly disagree with, but I'm glad they're not stonewalling or just gaslighting, as I call it. They actually communicating, because I don't mind that. I don't have to agree with everybody. And the guy that I did a lot of work in South America as a Mormon. I'm not a Mormon, but we could respect each other because of our families. And we talked about an unfortunate event that happened, started in Harrison, Arkansas, and it's the Mount Meta massacre. And that event is something that just in a recent Netflix podcast, uh, whatever the American, I forget what the last part of the title, of profile or something, was all about. And so when those pop up, I may have a conversation with those people, and we don't agree on everything, but we agree to be friends and overcome differences, and that's what you have to do sometimes with people with Parkinson's is still be a friend and try to encourage each other, and that's the main thing of what all of us are doing, and that's what it's all about anyway. You got to be an encourager.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate those words, and I agree that really everyone, we all agree in the world, no matter what gender, race, we have to find a cure for Parkinson's. It doesn't discriminate, it affects people around the world. And I think as long as we stick together and everyone listening shares this, we can gain more awareness worldwide. So thank you again, Herb. I have a little message for you and our listeners. We love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Herb, will advocate for you, and together I feel our voices are so much stronger. And I always end the show with I'm just getting started. But even though I've been doing this for some time, and so has Herb, there's been tougher days, whether it's coming out of surgery, from back surgery or ankle, or who knows, or you have some other issues with family. No matter what, at the end of the day, I look to Herb some days and see his, presence and his inspiring work, and I kind of forget my own things and just realize that we still have so much more work to do until we find a cure, and also continue to advocate for those battling Parkinson today. So I just want to thank you again, Herb, for your friendship, and really excited for the future together advocating, and just an honor to finally get the opportunity to talk today.
Well, thank you, and I love you, and I love your efforts. So I always want to, stay tuned to what you're doing, and every opportunity I can to promote what you're doing is important because it's thing is to talk about it and not shy away from it, and just the reality of dealing with it is something I'm hoping to communicate is there's a lot of things you can do, but you have to be open to people, and I try to be as transparent. So I really appreciate this opportunity and look forward to our future visits.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Herb, and thank you to everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. Please stay tuned. We have so much more to come. We also have a lot more work to do until the cure is at everyone's doorsteps around the world. So thanks, Herb, and thanks everyone for listening, sending our love, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Okay, good to see you.